Mixed media isn't just for your art journal. Try using it on your cards for a truly unique, eye-popping card design. I'm Amber Rain Davis from NotableInk.com. Welcome back to the channel. Hey Altenew friends, it's been a while since I posted for Altenew, but we are celebrating their 8th anniversary. I'm starting off with some black acrylic paint and a 3x5 gel press here, and I'm just going to put some really simple black lines on here. We're going all the way back to finger painting. Art doesn't have to be complicated. You can get right in there with your finger and create these striking lines here. I went back and looked at the last several years of the Altenew anniversary blog hops. It's my favorite blog hop that they do every year. It's quite an event and there's so much inspiration. And what I found is all of my cards, for whatever reason, use black stripes for the anniversary hops, either black stripes or plaid or just lots of black. So I decided to recreate that look with a little bit of a different way here. So I'm really impatient. If you've watched my videos, you know that. So I didn't want to wait for all of this black paint to dry. So I took a piece of deli paper, which is, you know, what you wrap your sandwiches up with, and I just pulled up some of that black ink. Now I can use this print on another card. You can see that it fits perfectly there. Again, I still didn't want to wait, so I'm pulling up a little bit more, and I have two panels that I can use some other time. So I'm going to put those aside. Of course, black and white isn't going to do it for me. We definitely need some color in there. So I've grabbed my Volcano Lake alcohol marker refill. I also have sea glass, and I'm going to add some buttercream to this as well. And I'm just dropping some alcohol ink on here, just straight on to the gel press, and I'm going to let those mix together a little bit. Here's the buttercream, so I wanted to have a bit of a contrast in color, but I also wanted to use colors that I knew if they mixed together, it would be okay. Blue and yellow are going to make green. I already have a blue-green going on here with the Volcano Lake and the sea glass, so these are going to mix well together. I did not want to use complementary colors that would turn into a brown. I want to keep this panel nice and vibrant. Now here I thought, okay, well let me try and dry this alcohol ink, because again, I'm impatient. And then I grabbed, I don't know what you call these things, is it like an air puffer or something? You squeeze it and the air puffs out. None of that was fast enough for me. I didn't want to use my heat tool because I was afraid that that would melt the gel press. And so I'm doing the deli paper again. I'm just lifting off some of that alcohol ink. Again, these are panels that I can use in future projects, so I'm going to save those. I've got an envelope that I just keep all of those in. I've let the alcohol ink dry, and I'm putting on some white acrylic paint. And you can see when you start using your brayer, you get these little oval shapes. The way to smooth that out is to lift your brayer. So after each stroke, you want to lift your brayer, and that's going to help disperse the paint all the way around the brayer drum, and you get that smooth application of paint without those little ovals. So I just have the piece of acetate on the back of this. Normally I have these mounted to a stamp block, but I just did it with the acetate on the back here. So I'm going to plop this down, making sure that it's straight, but what I can immediately see is that I don't have it centered left to right. Do not panic. We're going to be able to fix that so easily, you guys. It's like not even a problem at all. So I'm doing this print on a 110-pound Nina Classic Crest Solar White, and once I have the gel plate down, I'm making sure that I really get good contact between the paint and the cardstock. So you can see I'm smoothing it all around, and once I peel it off, because I only used a little bit of white paint, it's going to pull everything off together. I'm loving the bold textures and how these colors mix together. We still have a touch of yellow, a touch of teal, and it created this beautiful Kelly green. I pulled out Simple Flowers from Altenew. This is one of the first sets I bought from them, and it's still one of my favorites, but I knew I needed some bold graphic flowers in order to go along with this custom background that we have here. Now here's the really simple fix for us not getting our background in the center. We're just going to run the sentiment right up the side, and this stamp set has a perfect sentiment for that. It's the perfect size, it's the perfect length, and it's going to help us center our background. Look at that, problem solved. No issue at all. And I stamped that in Obsidian pigment ink. I also grabbed Warm Sunshine Mixed Media ink. This is also a pigment ink, and So the alcohol inks have a transparent nature. The pigment inks are opaque, dye inks are transparent. So I wanted to have a mix of different mediums here, right? Different looks, some transparent, some opaque, and that's why I've picked the pigment inks over the dye inks. You get a little bit of a different finish on it. It's really smooth and creamy and super opaque and vibrant, and that's what I was going for. I wanted to make sure that I got really solid stamping on these bold, simple flower stamp sets here. So I'm just going to stamp this more than once so I get really good coverage. If you have a MISTI, which I'm using here, or a stamp positioning tool, that's going to make it a lot easier to stamp more than once. And then I'll start arranging a few more flowers. I'll put a link to the blog hop up above to my blog post. There's going to be a huge giveaway for the anniversary blog hop, and it's a several day hop, so do make sure that you check that out because they give away tons of prizes and there's just loads of inspiration. This stamp set comes with a couple stems in the stamp set that you can use, but I'm arranging these in a way that I know that I'm going to need to draw my own stems, which is totally fine. And I fiddled around with how I wanted to arrange these quite a bit. I knew that I wanted yellow and black flowers. I want the black to complement those black stripes, and I wanted yellow flowers in order to complement just that touch of yellow we still have left over in our gel print background. So I'm going to stamp that right over the yellow, and you're going to see the yellow peek through just a little bit. That's another cool thing about the pigment inks. When you layer them on top of each other, you kind of get like this ghost effect that's really cool, and you'll see it more. You can see it a little bit here now, but you'll see it more in the final photos. I feel like this is a really underrated stamp set that doesn't get as much love as it should, but maybe that's just because it appeals to my particular style. To me, these have a little bit of a Zentangle vibe to them, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately. I've been doing a lot more art journaling than I have been card making. And I've really enjoyed that. I like the idea of having the art forever in the art journals. It's kind of all contained and kept in one place. And so I've kind of moved a little bit away from card making and into that art journaling for now. I still do both though. So I'm just adding some stems in here because I know I want a fifth flower here, but I could not figure out where I wanted to put it until I put some stems down. I'm going to do that last flower off camera and then we'll get right to the stems. I'm using a Posca acrylic paint pen here. I wanted a pretty thick line for these stems and I'm going to fill it in, which is faster if you have a thicker nib. And I've sped up the drawing of these stems to about 4 times the speed that they were actually drawn at. I do get a lot of questions about how do you get your lines to be smooth. And while there are a couple secrets to getting smooth lines, it's nothing earth-shattering and it's probably something that you've heard before. Number 1, for smooth lines, you have to draw slowly. I know that's kind of lame, but it's true. You have to just draw really slowly. Number 2, you have to determine which direction you get the smoothest line. So for some people, if they draw away from themselves, they get a smoother line. For other people, as they pull the line or the pen towards them, they get a smoother line. So do a little bit of practice with that in a journal or just on a piece of paper. Kind of practice which direction you get a smoother line in. And number 3, I kind of plant my hand, the base of my, not my palm, but the side of my hand on the surface, and I move my hand almost like a compass. So like with a compass, you kind of put the point down in the middle and then you arc, the pencil arcs around that point. I do that with my hand as well, especially if I'm trying to do a curve. I'll kind of plant my hand and use it like a compass. So those are my 3 tips on drawing smooth lines. I am going to fussy cut this little bouquet out. Of course, we don't have a die for this because we made our own bouquet. And my ink is not dry, you guys. I am touching it all over the place. You're going to see it's going to smear later. We'll fix it. Don't worry about it. I'll show you a trick you can use to try and prevent that. But again, like, I love pigment inks, but they just don't dry fast. So you have to be mindful of that. So I pulled out my cutting mat and my X-Acto knife here, and I decided that I wanted to cut out these middle pieces. Again, if you remember, I stamped this on a 110-pound cardstock, so it's pretty thick cardstock for me to get through. If I had used 80-pound cardstock, this would have been easier, so just keep that in mind. If you're going to be fussy cutting or using an X-Acto knife to cut, you want to use a thinner cardstock. It's going to make it easier for you to cut, but I'm just going to speed this up, but I did want to leave it in here so that you could see it. It can be done. It's not too terribly difficult, and I think it makes a really big difference in your final result. You might have to go over a couple areas a few times, but again, that's no big deal. So you can see I've got my fingers all over that black image up there, and I've transferred it to this piece right here. Now, not a big deal because most of that is going to get cut out, but I'm just going to grab a piece of that deli paper and use that to shield my fingers from the rest of the image. And if you're working with something that's not quite dry yet, you can use either a piece of paper or a piece of deli paper to just shield that ink. Or you could just heat set it, but you know I'm not doing that. So it looks so much better that we can see our background through the middle of that bouquet. And I've grabbed the Altenew dimensional tape here. We're just going to put some of that on the back, and I'll cut up a few pieces to put on the stems because I definitely want to pop this up. I find it's easier to bend these small pieces to fit on the stems if you take the backing paper off. It makes it a little more pliable without the paper on there. So I would give that a try if you're struggling with your dimensional tape. Your tweezers can help keep your hands out of the way so you can get perfect placement on your card. And I wanted the flowers to pop over the edge of our background because I think just design-wise, that's a much better look. Check out all the yummy texture and vibrant colors we've created with this mixed media card. So we used acrylic paint, alcohol ink, pigment inks. We used an acrylic marker and created this truly unique, eye-popping card design with mixed media. Thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you soon in the next video.